My apologies to Samuel Montembeault, but we're opening this video up with a statement. The Montreal Canadiens are in an amazing place, goaltending-wise. You have Jacob and you have Jacob. One goes out there and dominates in games, super clutch, 26 shots against, 25 saves against the Blue Jackets last night, a .962 save percentage, a .953 on Tuesday versus the Carolina Hurricanes. My friends, Jakub Dobeš is looking amazing again. And then you have Fowler, who is only 21 years old, but is a guy that was praised by the best of the best in Carey freaking Price. Look at this comment made by Carey Price on an interview earlier this week, talking about Jacob Fowler. When I watch Fowler play, he reminds me a lot of when I was his age. I've talked to him a couple of times. I gave him my number. If he ever has any questions about anything, I'm always open to help out in any way I can. But he looks like he is doing just fine, to me. Can you imagine that? You're so good, you're so young, that one of the best goaltenders in, let's just say, postmodern NHL history is literally saying, yeah, no, he reminds me of me. That's ridiculous, man. Like, the praise you can get from somebody. That's the ultimate compliment, is it not? Carey Price, scary Carey Price, probably the best goaltender holistically of the 2010s if you were to average everything out. Still technically on contract, by the way. He's a San Jose Shark. I don't know if y'all remember that. His contract expires at the end of the season, $10.5 million a year. Carey Price is a legend in his own right. You look at the amount of nominations he had gotten, all the championships and the medals and the trophies and everything. It's very rare to see a goaltender win the Ted Lindsay Award, but Carey Price has done it. He's gone out there and said that Jacob Fowler reminds him of himself, and with that in mind, I wanted to go out there and compare the two. Take a look at how their careers have fared from Carey Price's long, illustrious, season-by-season record in the National Hockey League to Jacob Fowler's early beginnings in the same league. Obviously, one is a lot older than the other, so it's not going to be a long-term comparison. But Carey Price has about 17 years on Jacob Fowler, so we can rewind the clock a little bit just to see where everything is at. Right now, Jacob Fowler is in the NHL at 21 years old, 13 games played, and an .899 save percentage. He also had a .916 in the AHL with Laval. Carey Price, on the other hand, when he was 21, he had a .905 save percentage in 52 games played in the regular season, plus an .878 in 4 playoff games. The Montreal Canadiens back in this time frame were going through a bit of a transition. I mean, Jaro Halak was technically the better goaltender, but Carey Price was already the starter. You take a look at how things had gone the previous year, and you also had conversations about Halak because the guy was in there, not to mention Cristobal Huet, still a Canadiens goaltender. You will notice a pattern with all of these numbers, though. Back in 2007, 2008, 2009-ish territory, league save percentages were a lot higher than they are right now, so maybe it's a little difficult to go out there and compare Jacob Fowler's direct one-to-one numbers from back then over to today. But at the same time, if you go over to age 20, we can compare AHL numbers. Carey Price, at 20 years old, had a .920, oh my goodness, that's ridiculous, save percentage in the National Hockey League. He also had an .896 with the Hamilton Bulldogs in the AHL. Meanwhile, Jacob Fowler played in the A and the NCAA, where he posted up a .940 with the Boston College Eagles at 20 years old. Fowler also had .914 save percentage numbers in his 3-game stint with the Laval Rocket. Going over to age 19, this is where things get a little bit interesting because Carey Price did have a .917 in the WHL at 19 years old. Pretty good, But then again, it's the dub. CHL goaltending numbers are never ever too strong, I guess, when you just look at the numerical value of how everything goes down. So while it is a really nice comparison to talk about Jacob Fowler looking like Carey Price, it seems more like a stylistic comparison rather than one of actual statistical illustration. The leagues and the numbers are just so different now compared to how they were back then. So you really have to talk about the styles. You have to talk about what these guys do, how they move, the decisions they make. And Carey Price is one of the best, most calm goaltenders we have seen over the past few years. He moves around like an old grandpa in a rocking chair, just stopping everything that comes his way with ease. Okay, maybe he doesn't do that much nowadays, but that's what he was like when he was at the Sochi Olympics, for example. Just super calm, super composed. He does not overreact to anything. And Carey Price made a living in the National Hockey League just kind of doing that for most of his career. For him to go out there and say that Jacob Fowler exhibits some of those same qualities, especially at a similar age, it's pretty good. Let's go out there and read some of the comments from our Habs users about the Carey Price praise for Jacob Fowler. Class act. A Sharks legend helping out the Canadiens, eh? This guy is all heart. Fowler donates some knee cartilage in exchange for some lessons. Habs trade Dobesh for Robert Thomas 1-for-1. Price and Fowler put up a combined 70 win. Okay, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. I know great players don't always make great coaches, but I know Montreal is pretty far from where he lives for him to come back here. But I would love for him to try to be a goalie coach. He had such a perfect technique that anything he could teach Dobesh and Fowler would be a plus. He might do some contractual stuff, come once in a while to help out. Not the whole year, I think he's very set on living on his own terms, but I could see the occasional visit. I think more than a few people saw echoes of Carey Price in Jacob Fowler, so quiet, so composed. Now we need Dominic Hasek to say that Dobesh reminds of him of a younger him. I swear there's a Hasek line somewhere, deep inside Jacob Dobesh. Jacob Fowler also has a hint of Waz confidence, but isn't arrogant in the process. Agreed with that. I don't know if that kid even knows how to spell arrogance. Completely different personality. So at the end of the day, Montreal Canadiens goaltending is in a pretty good spot. From Jacob Dobesh literally doing things that we want to see Montreal goaltenders doing, stealing games with consistent 9+ 100 save percentage numbers. I mean, the guy's at a 9.31 in his last 5 games. That's not easy. He's going out there and proving himself as starter material late in the year, and he's got a 21-year-old backup that looks like the next gosh darn Carey Price, according to Carey Price behind him. How else can you describe Montreal goaltending as anything other than elite? With that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Carey Price comparing Jacob Fowler to himself and what we had seen out of Jacob Dobesh yesterday. How do you feel about these conversations? Do you think Fowler has the potential to live up to Price and the profile that the guy was able to establish for himself at the NHL level? Is Jacob Fowler a future Hart and Ted Lindsay winner? Who knows? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.